Hello, everybody. It's Friday, and that means it's time for another topic of the week. First off, normal preamble. Last week's topic. Obviously, last week's topic was a big one. It was about, diversity, inclusion, community. And, well, first I want to apologize to the community that responded because I passed, thumbs down votes all around the community. But everybody who made a video got a couple, which always makes me laugh at people downvoting calls for civility. Um, but here's what I loved. I loved how many people commented, supported, upvoted, thought about it, talked about it. I know we're a week out. It's an ongoing thing, and I hope that it continues. And there were great responses. They're all linked in that video. So please do go check them out. And what I would say is I find I'm hard pressed to single anyone out because they were all good and thoughtful. But I will pick two that I did particularly enjoy. Not that any of them were bad. Many of them were fantastic. And I would ask it, and I would say, go look at William Page, creative name to stand out, and go look at Andy2D6, who I thought both took a very interesting sort of intellectual angle of dissecting a particular portion of the discussion and thinking about it very rationally. And providing a very level-headed, even view, which I greatly appreciated. I think in the end, if I had to sum up as I sort of move away from that topic, what I would sum up with is if somebody tells you that something offends them or you sense that you're saying something that could be offensive, and you know that because it's the things you wouldn't say if you're just standing in Starbucks, right? And somebody tells you that it offends them, probably just listen to them. Because why would you want to willingly hurt another human being who's right in front of you and wants to hang out with you? Seems a simple enough rule. Don't willingly hurt other human beings if you can avoid it. Seems easy. All right, so that preamble out of the way, let's turn to this week's topic. And coming off such a heavy topic, I wanted to lighten it up a little bit. We're going to be a little more fun this week, of course. We can't get down there all the time. So let's take it back up. We had Mel, the terrain tutor, on the show this week. If you haven't yet watched this week's show, go check it out. He's a great guy. Awesome. Shared a lot of fantastic knowledge with us. So, that's this week's topic, folks. It's all about terrain. Now, many people know that I tend to paint miniatures very quickly. I like painting. I've painted a lot of miniatures. I'm surrounded by armies I've painted. But there's not a lot of terrain in this room. I've done a couple realm gates. Other than that, most of my terrain honestly comes on bases or was the cardboard box buildings you saw in the Warhammer Weekly. Because terrain has always scared me. It feels more like a hardware store project, right, than a game store project. And I think that just sort of required, Mel made a good point that when you're working on models, there's a sort of unified set of tools you tend to use, right? If you really boil it down, the tools of this trade are, brushes, paint, water, right? Miniatures, obviously, but that's just the palette, or that's the thing you're painting on. Everything else is all just sort of making it easier, but with terrain making and doing terrain, it's all over the shop, right? You use all these different tools and techniques and materials, and I think honestly that scared me. And I don't mean that in some foolish way. I just mean like it's easy to not start something because you don't really know what you're doing, right? That's all I mean. Not like I lied awake at night shaking and going, oh no, I have to make terrain. It's not that. I just mean like, it's hard. If you really know nothing about what's going on, it can sometimes be a little tough to get over that hump of actually doing it. But he mentioned just offhandedly on the show, he said, just do it. And I agree. Using the old doom and darkness mantra, just do it. And so I went out, did a little hardware shopping myself, got a few very simple things, and I'm gonna try to make some terrain. And also I'm gonna use that same stuff to make bigger, more ridiculous bases. So here's my topic for this week, and it's kind of multifaceted. One, do you like making terrain? Are you interested in it? Do you want to do more of it? Do you like making terrain for your games? There's one. Two, how important to you is terrain in your war games? What I mean by that is I don't care what game you're playing, although you can certainly include it because I think that can influence the answer. But how important to you is terrain? Do you like nice looking, painted, terrain. Or like literally, as I mentioned during the show, could you write forest on a piece of paper, kind of tear it in a rough shape, and then lay it down on the table and be like, yep, good to go. That's fine for me, right? What level of terrain do you like? And then third, so that's kind of on the quality of terrain, right? And then third, what impact on the game do you want terrain to have? So do you prefer more of like the classic Warhammer previous edition style of like two hills, a building, and a woods, and they're kind of scattered, as Mel said, they're scattered toward the outside, so we can have our little punch up in the middle, right? Or do you like terrain that's very interactive, that does stuff, that has effects on the battle, whether it be mystical or mysterious, or just that has special abilities, things it can do, things that your troops interact with in some way, where it's relevant beyond its static existence on the field, right? So there you go. There's your 3 questions under this topic of the week. 1, do you like making terrain? Do you want to get into making terrain? Do you want to make more? 2, how important is quality terrain to you on your table? And 3, what's the impact that you think terrain should have in your games? Okay? And like I said, if you want to be specific and say, well, in this game I like it here, and in this game I like it in a different way, that's totally legitimate, because I think there is a level of differing interaction, right? Different games require different things of the terrain on the board. But I think it is one of those unique elements of our game and of wargaming and worth talking about. You play an RPG or something, it's theater of the mind, maybe, or even on a battle mat, you can just draw on a map and that's fine. But when you're playing a wargame, we're painting these miniatures, they're here, there's something physical we can hold and touch. And so I think that having something on the board has value, right? Something to interact with, something to be there to kind of, I don't know, it seems kind of goofy, but I suppose to increase the immersion. I understand that the little building is not a real building, but there's something about it, right? It kind of aids the imagination. So, there we go. As always, all videos responding to this will be linked down below, but if you don't want to make a video, feel free to just comment. And of course, last week's video will also be linked down below, and in that video, you can find all the responses from last week. So, there we go. That's the topic. Look forward to everything. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you next time.